There, everybody. Welcome back. I am Pseudo, and today we have a special performing guest. His name is Mamiga, and he's one of the best Ellie players I know. No offense, Self here. Say hi, Mig.
Hey, he picked me up off the side of the street. He gave me $20 and said to be here.
I didn't bet you anything. All right. Yeah, we're going to talk about Conduit, Amalgam, and Ellie today. They saved the best for last, huh? Kind of insane.
Oh man, they certainly have had a lot in all of the presentations, but I'm pretty sure these three have a lot going on. I mean, I am a dedicated Ellie main, so generally speaking, everything else besides this presentation was going to be nothing to me. But it's a lot.
I don't know. You've been playing a little bit of Engineer. You can kind of talk about that as well. And you're just a very skilled player in general. But we're going to go in order. We're going to talk about Conduit, then Amalgam, and then we'll spend 80 years on Ellie, and me can just talk, and I'll like walk away and do push-ups or something. But I don't know. A lot of people seemed a little bit, I don't want to say disappointed, but let down by Conduit. But I think the synergies it has are kind of complicated enough to give a lot of people stuff to play with. What are your thoughts as a non-Rev player in a guild full of Revs that is War Pigs?
I see some general mechanical issues with it. Not like issues, but I have some gripes about it, in that it reminds me a lot of Catalyst, where there's a lot of mechanics involved in the class, but most of them are just happening in the background. You're not really micromanaging it so much as you're just pressing the button at the right time. I mean, I guess that's every class in the game, but it largely seems like the stance you get, the little form, is mostly a stat stick. You just put it on.
There are a lot of stats in this, that's true, and that I don't want to say they use that to compensate for stuff that's missing, but sometimes they use that to compensate for stuff that's missing. Like Troubadour or Bard gains a lot of stats as well, but it loses its clone generation, so maybe I can't think of, like, at least compared to Core Rev, because a lot of these specializations, these new last three, generally seem to me like sort of core, but a little bit more core, a little bit diagonally up. I don't know if it's missing anything compared to Core Rev, but I guess I'll defer to the Revenant players on that, because you kind of similar to Core Rev, you just get another F2 button, but it's just Revenant but more, in a sense.
Yeah.
So very briefly, if you didn't know, Conduit basically gets a Revenant or a legend called Raja. We won't explain all of them fully. Go watch the video if you've seen it, but it gets a legend that enhances select abilities from its kit depending on what off legend you have, which is interesting. And also I've heard from the community a lot that they wish all the skills were enhanced, kind of like the elite skill. I think that would be a little bit too much, because then they would just end up having one legend that's always the best, but we'll see. Also, sorry, I forgot to contextualize this. Meeg is mostly a PvP player, although he does a fair bit of world versus world, and a decent bit of PvE as well. And I'm mostly world versus world and do build crafting, theory crafting there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's about right. I do fractals. Sometimes I have to farm the open world and I hate it, but that's how it is.
You're more of a reactionary player than a predictive player, I guess. Yeah. But you're very good at it. So, kind of getting back into Conduit, it seems to have a lot of tools that make it very customizable in that sense, and maybe the stats are padding so that it can be customizable. I don't know. I'd prefer this approach to something like Paragon that just seems to have traits there for no reason, but Paragon's a whole other thing I won't get into. I think that, however, this is one of the Revenant classes, if not the Revenant class, that brings a lot of unique things. Notably among them is actually Conduit, which is not something Revenants usually have easy access to, and there's a very good Conduit trait as well as a very good Conduit skill on this kit, which is interesting. I don't know. It seems like it might shake up the playstyle, at least in terms of Revenant's counters. I was actually talking with Homage a fair bit, because, you know, we hang out, we chat, we yap, and I described to him this weird position Revenant's in, where it refreshes all of its energy every 10 seconds, or at least it has the potential to. So you end up kind of like doing this weird dance of like running away, building up energy, nuking your opponent, and then running away, swatching legends, and then running away, repeat, right? And that sort of both gives Revenant the potential to be more bursty and burst heavy, but it also sort of puts a cap on the power level a Revenant can ever be at, because they do get that resource back every 10 seconds, essentially. So
Yeah.
there's a couple traits in Conduit that I think might flip that a little bit on its head and spread out Revenant's power a little bit. Most notably, one of the Grandmasters allows you to just fully channel your off legend no matter what, but it becomes an upkeep skill. So if you can manage like mad energy management via other Revenant tools and just constantly channel that, I think there's things like that for the potential to at least like shake up, at least mechanically, what Revenant's playstyle has always been, where it's always been in sort of like this burst heavy role in terms of PvP, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That Grandmaster additionally gives refund on the affinity mechanic for energy, which I think is supposed to lean into more of like a consistent choosing when you swap in and out of your burst phases, but not necessarily, because normally you have your burst phase that's in activating your form, and that's the whole thing, and when it's over, and you have to wait for it. And that's kind of what Rev already does, in a sense, as you've described.
Or you have to get the energy back or wait for the ability to swap your legend back and get its energy back. And we're doing our best as non-Revenant mains to comment on this. This is mostly going to be from the perspective of that, keep in mind. But it's still, like, I think that if nothing else, this gives Revenant a lot of very scary tools. Notably, among them are random condition applications, both in Shiro and Malix. And Jealous also has, like, it may not sound very attractive for PvE, but something like that for PvP is kind of a nightmare, because it kind of ensures that your Conduit cleanses are just going to be eaten up by those random conditions, because this game operates on first in, first out Conduit cleanse most of the time. So, like, you know, you apply a bunch of random conditions to me, I Conduit cleanse, I Conduit cleanse the cripple or vulnerability, JK, I still have like 20 stacks of burning on me or something like that. So it's, I don't know, the build potential to me, at least as a theory crafter, is definitely there. The one that really scares me, though, is Jealous. And Jealous has, I don't want to get into it too much into the weeds right now, but it seems to have just like perma stab and perma stun from the numbers they showed off in PvE. And I don't know if that can be fun for you or your opponent. And I say that as a warrior player. Like, the least fun thing in this game is getting perma CC'd. And granted, they are introducing a lot of like AoE stun break mechanics with this expansion, but I don't know if I love that.
there was also the point where, I'm not sure if I watched the video closely enough, but Perpetual Wisdom, when you can choose to activate or deactivate your what's it called, the form, that might be able to give you the Jealous stab when you enter form as Jealous, just on command whenever you want. You can, like,
you see a CC coming, and you just, it's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of instacast things in this expansion coming up that, even if they aren't instacast, that just seem to be like just happening passively. And it's, I don't want this is kind of something we dealt with in PvP before, where we had these traits that would just trigger randomly, or basically on health thresholds, where you would get Endure Pain or Stone Signet or Minor Stone Signet when you hit a health threshold. I don't really want to go back to that world, and I don't think ArenaNet does either, where if you have like a Paragon next to you pulsing some kind of heal, you know, you're just, that's fine. But like, if they have some kind of pulsing like Aegis or something, it's like, how do I fight this? You know, when do I hit you? Sort of thing. So we'll see if that sort of thing comes into play with like these instacast mechanics, whether they're on Conduit or whether they're like the barrier application that Amalgam gets a little bit later. But I'm stoked. I think that Conduit, once again, is kind of jack of all trades, master of none. However, I do think that it has, well, I do think I'm scared of Jealous. I think that it has, from what I've seen, something that I've been looking for in Specializations, and that is meaningful trade interactions that aren't just like, it does have more stats, but it has like the minor traits, for example, or the adept traits, because this game hates naming conventions. The adept traits, the first ones that you can select, actually seem like they matter, at least in terms of like relative to the Grandmasters you can select and play off them. Same thing with the major ones. And you know, that's a theme I think we'll see going forward as well with the next two, obviously, but it's it's refreshing to see. It's something we also saw very heavily on what's it called, Antiquary, where it has traits that seem like they don't just like give you Conduit cleanse or give you like swiftness. They give you meaningful interactions with the way your class like functions and plays.
Yeah, like Antiquary had a lot to do with improvisation as a trait. They went back and they went a whole mess of stuff to do with a different trait line entirely, just because they felt like it.
I've actually been theory crafting a decent bit on Amalgam, and we can slowly move into that a little bit here as we ramp up to the deluge that's going to be these next two specs. But it looks like it's actually going to be weirdly decently good with what's the one no one takes in PvP? Inventions?
It's gotta be Inventions.
The like healing one?
You're gonna talk about the prot, right?
You're right. And that's kind of refreshing to see where they're like, hey, we don't want to like directly buff these trait lines, but what if we used some of the tools in some of these trait lines to actually build on what we're introducing to the game? And I think they tried to do that a little bit with Paragon. It's just that tactics is such a mess right now, but we'll see. Maybe it gets a rework. Maybe we get a balance patch soon. Who knows? Hopefully before the expansion, at least something to deal with the Necropocalypse. But let's move into Amalgam if you don't have anything else to say on Conduit.
I do have a little more.
No, go ahead.
Obviously, we're not gonna do the whole like lore spiel because I love Raza, even though I don't know why they gave him Dervish since he was obviously a Mesmer 100% of the time on your team. But I was a little disappointed at like the active effects of the forms. I thought they were rather kind of lame. I was really excited at first for the Dervish Scythe on hit thing, because I thought that was like, oh, that's Valve strength, we're going straight back, baby. But none of the other ones have a damage proc on their activation. But I will say that
no, Gladiator's Defense does. The Dwarf Stun Break.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, not to correct you, I'm literally looking at it right now.
Yeah. But like the Cosmic Wisdom active effects.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I think despite that, this spec seems like it was made for short bow. I think it feels so short bow.
We'll see.
So many little procs of damage, Conduit focus, like Mist Fire might go crazy with short bow. It'd be really effective. Like
short bow in melee range, you mean? Because it splits. Okay, so if you didn't know, the autos from short bow actually auto, they kind of explode and they hit in an AOE for ANET reasons. It's actually one of the fastest and best auto attacks in the game, so I can see what you're saying. With the just auto triggering scythe stuff. Yeah, there's going to be some insane combos, especially with like impossible odds and stuff. There's a lot of one wolf pack type effects in this. It's almost like We Hate Aegis the expansion, you know? Like, this is like, I don't know, man. Like, it's gonna be tough if your class is built around Aegis, but maybe not. Maybe Luminary's like overpowered or something. I don't know. It's a lot of little micro damage ticks. I'm actually kind of happy that for once the elite skill seems like something you can cast more, at least. And again, we're just going off the PvE numbers. I guess we'll see in 2 days when we get our hands on it in PvP and World vs. World. Again, beta coming out on the 20th. I'm going to try to have this up on Wednesday so that hopefully that's a little bit before that. But it's going to be interesting. The beta's on the 20th, right? Am I imagining that, or is it the 27th?
I swear it's the 20th.
Yeah, that's in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's on a Wednesday. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't having a stroke in real time. Anyway, beta on the 20th. It's nice that they have an elite skill, going back to my original thought I had, that you can seemingly cast more often than needing like a full endurance or a full energy pool for channeling Malix, or a full energy pool for like a Jealous or a Stunbreak or a Shiro nuke. I don't know. We'll have to ask Metal and Homage and all the other Rev players what they think of it once they get their hands on it.
Usually Revenant benefits the most from benefits a great deal, not the most, from relics and traits and whatever that activate on elite skill use, because they get 2 most of the time, so they have a lot more procs of it. And this does look, at least at that, PvE, because again, everything is not in a competitive mode. This is PvE stats, PvE scaling. It's going to be different. I'm just speculating.
They should feel relatively the same, though. Like, at least
but
thematically.
I think the Twin Moon Sweep is cool as hell.
The animations on all 3 of these are blisteringly gorgeous. I will say that. Not jealous at all. Anyway, I'm hyper scared of the dwarf stun break that refunds you all your energy, but we'll see how it is. We'll see how it plays. Maybe, you know, Ritualist or Luminary will be the OP ones in the beta. Who knows? But I'm looking forward to it. Slime time?
Slime time.
All right. So this was easily not biased at all as a closet engineer player. Amalgam was clear. I guess my favorite and probably the community's favorite because we had no idea what it was going to be, kind of like Rev going into it. Basically, no idea before the write-up what the you know, nuclear reactor icon or atom looked like, and it actually turned out to be more of a cell than a nuclear reactor. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, good, you probably have a life and have gone outside and touched grass. But the engineer icon kind of looks like a cellular I majored in biology, nucleus, and it's more akin to like a slime mancer. Or if you really want to squint really hard, you're the T1000 basically. But
I was calling it Internet Explorer class. I didn't know what to make of it.
Fair enough. And you call it you know, if someone calls it Internet Explorer, they're extremely old, chat, instead of Edge, showing our age a little bit there. But it's no, I do the same thing. Basically, how Amalgam works is instead of getting tool belt skills, which was a big common complaint that you did not get with Mechanist, you get tool belt skills, but they're not tool belt skills, JK, they are morph skills, and then your F5 instead inherits your morph attributes for your F2 through F4. Your F1 is still relative to your heal kit, so they don't have to rebalance med kit, which is a good idea in my opinion. This one has some of the most thought, I think, put into it. Because I have, like I said, I spent a good portion of today theory crafting, actually, an Amalgam, because a lot of it looks very versatile, but a lot of it looks very weird, and people kind of forget that NG, without a kit, kind of sucks to play. And unlike Holosmith, you do have some skill recharge in here, but you don't actually get another form inherently, so you don't get just like a bunch of buttons to press for free. There are ways to do it, as we'll talk about, but it seems like a lot of Amalgams, at least in PvP, are going to be taking, unless you're doing one very specific thing, at least one kit, I would guess. And I don't know what that kit's going to be, especially with their rework to Flamethrower, because it has a lot of synergy with multi-hit skills. Feel free to talk over me or stop me at any time, but one of the things that I really like about this spec is the morph skills that you can slot into your tool belt really seem to be quite well thought out, especially with the strain effect that you get when you press your F5 that they're coupled with. Like, a couple of them are stun breaks, so you generally don't want to take both of them. They couldn't just make like the damage ones also the stun break, because then you would only take that in sort of a PvP scenario, you know what I mean? Like, the ones that seem to have very powerful morph effects kind of have like a little bit, not lesser strains, but just strains that I guess the power distribution seems to be spread out between the morph and the strains, and obviously numbers can be tweaked and we'll see, but there seems to be a lot of very, very good thought and very good understanding in terms of Engineer's kit, and kind of like what I said before, a lot of these, if not Amalgam specifically, seem to be geared at making old trait lines sort of relevant. And while I don't like them specifically calling out traits like Specialist, or I think it's called anti-corrosive coating, the one,
yeah,
right, the one on Engineer that cleanses conditions on protection application, it seems like those are interactions that they would like people to be aware of, at least during the beta, to try out and see, hey, is this a good thing? You know what I mean? Is this good that we're balancing around sort of this?
Because normally Engineer actually does have a lot of benefits that it gets a lot of prot if it needs to. You can really lean into anti-corrosive plating, but a lot of
almost
the time
any build.
Yeah, but a lot of the time you lose out on way too much to lean into it, basically. Like, you get a bunch of cleanse and you're gonna get a lot of prot. Both of these things counter both damage types, but you have to take inventions to do it, and there's a huge trade-off to that, especially with the reworks that came out. And you can't take tools, or you can take tools, but then you lose a bunch of damage. It is generally kind of hard to lean into, I think. Especially with how much damage you can like pull out anyway. And usually the best cleanse is to just kill the guy trying to give you conditions.
Yeah. I mean, they've got plenty of tools to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I like the most about Amalgam? I'll give you a clue. It almost has nothing to do with Amalgam.
It's probably... No, I don't even know. I can't guess.
One of their morph skills gives you a giant sword. The giant sword breaks 100%, at least in PvE, of your opponent's barrier.
Right.
The barrier break thing that they called out has a specific icon. I am so excited to see if they give that to other things because they made a specific icon for it in the future.
I could have sworn that it was in the game already somewhere, but it wasn't.
Warrior has a terrible trait that does more damage to things with barrier, but it's not tuned correctly, so no one takes it. Yeah. But that's like, there needs to be, if I was going to do like a balance video part 2, at least for World vs. World, Electric Boogaloo, one of the things that I would definitely try to call out and emphasize is that there need to be more tools, at least before combat, that you can select to counter things like barrier. And maybe even counter things like damage and vulnerability or immobilize, or sorry, not immobilize, stealth. But the thing with getting into immobilize and stealth is stealth is a form of invulnerability. Sorry, I misspoke. Not immobilize, invulnerability. And then invulnerability is supposed to be invulnerability, so I don't know. It's this escalating arms race of like, here's this mechanic that counters it because it's a problem, you know, where's the numbers that we can tweak. But I'm excited, if nothing else, to see what they give that to. Hopefully not everything, but a lot of things have enough of it that barrier can feel meaningful in that it blocks damage, or at least makes you waste a button to do that break barrier, you know, effect. Because it's only one skill they have so far, and it's only one specialization.
The thing about Obliterate is it gets technically so much value if it actually does manage to break a very large barrier phase, because it'll do its damage after the barrier is broken. You're doing like 3 times the amount of damage because of it.
It's also a very long cast time. It's actually not that it's actually, despite them having a cartoonishly large sword, it's actually also a very small range. It's like 300. I'm seeing him hover over it here. So, yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I'm very excited for the spec. I'm very excited for the customization it brings. It kind of... The fact that it has some slottable Conduit cleanse and some slottable protection and a lot of slottable like offense... Yeah. Kind of means, at least in terms of PvP, that it will likely always retain a relevant build somewhere.
They did state specifically that they wanted to make this into sort of a bruiser engineer. Even though engineer can kind of bruise on most of its classes already, it just sort of inherently likes to do that. They gave it a lot of barrier synergy, a lot of potential defense. You can slot a 1.5 second goddamn block on your tool belt skills, which can be reduced with tools. And then you can take toolkit for another block. You can have run shield for another block. And by the time you're done with all that, you're freaking F1 recharged. You can do it again.
It's going to be interesting for sure, especially because it seems to have alacrity as well.
That definitely isn't going to be the case in competitive mode. I'm 100% convinced maybe only quickness stays. No alacrity will come over.
The thing that with the quickness and alacrity is they said they're both shareable via the morph customizations with your allies as well. So right. what I was wondering for PvE is, do you just like take like 5 amalgams and then just not have a support in your subgroup? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's I don't hate that option already, because in case people didn't know, Guardian can actually already do that, and so can Warrior. Just not to 100% extent. You can't 100% upkeep alacrity and quickness, but Willbender gives 100% alacrity and like 30% quickness, and so can Warrior currently with Warhorn, even without Martial Cadence, which gives stability in PvE. So I'm actually very interested to see if this is something they are testing to sort of put out into the community, because right at the end of the preview, Taylor actually specifically called out that you could share both of them, and then stopped his sentence like somebody told him like, hey, maybe don't call out that we could like ruin the PvE meta. Like, I'm very curious to see what they're doing with that and see what happens when Snowcrows gets their hands on this, because this looks, I mean, it's rule of cool, right? Like, you can give 100% quickness and alacrity, but no one's out there playing quickness, alacrity, Bladesword, right? Because frankly, no one wants to play it in PvE right now. But it's like all these new skills look amazing. They look cool thematically. They're very neat. It seems like Trig really cooked on this. If he worked on it, like with his, you know, it's a rumor that he has an animal science degree. I feel that. I minored in animal science as well. So props to him for using the microbiology stuff and working it into a really cool NG. It's sort of coming at NG from a different angle in terms of the science aspect. I don't know why the skills are stances again, other than they're probably going to put more stance relics in the game.
Yeah, interacting with existing mechanics.
But there's like one.
And isn't it cleansed on stance?
Yeah.
Which is not something they're going to care about at all at this point. They can just get it.
It's so weird that both this and Guardian have like, it's a stance. I summon a giant like energy storm or spectral weapons from the mist. It's a stance. It's like, no, it's not. But they know, they called it out. Yeah. I think it's really cool. I think the burst potential for this class, especially in PvP for team fights, is insane. Because like, think about it. If you're like relatively not helpful by yourself, but you know what your buttons do, but every time you push like a morph skill, you share it out to your allies, and then you can refresh that, and then you're also giving your allies like quickness and alacrity or something, or even just quickness. Like that's gonna be something. Especially if one of the things you can share out is like, I don't know, any kind of damage.
The
or the
elite,
one wolf pack thing.
I think the elite's going to be very relevant as an AoE like convergence pull, which already Hollow kind of runs when it runs Hard Light Arena, and it's honestly very, very good in team fights. Very excellent to be able to hit people with that.
What also horrified? Sorry, go ahead.
Now it's on elite. Now it does a bunch of damage. It looks like it could be a hybrid skill. Probably still wants to lean into power. A lot of procs though, that elite Aegis for sure. Firebrand will never eat again.
I don't know, man. I've been going over the Luminaries kit as well, and it seems to just have permanent Aegis, but we'll see. Maybe that's the ever escalating, arms race of this game. The one thing that horrified me, because when I was theory crafting this, I actually, and again, I hope to show off some of these things on the 20th. I realized that for reasons, Engineer has a trait that cools down your elite skill by 3 seconds every time you dodge, and it's in the trait line that gives you more dodges. So like, plus energy sigils are for some reason still in the game. Like, that seems good. I don't know. Plus you have alacrity that you can reset. Like, I just, there's gonna be some broken stuff for this spec, but I can't wait. I'm gonna have to fit a kit in somewhere that matters. Yeah, I'm super stoked.
One of my favorite traits in it is actually the Silver Lining one, where your morph skills grant their strain bonus, and Evolve just doesn't do anything anymore. Because, like, making your toolkit skills like insanely potent, even if it's like diminished, right? Like, just that skill itself will have a huge uptime, especially if you take tools. You get the cooldown down to 17 seconds, Then you can really start taking off and do stupid stuff. I think it'll be more potent defensively though, than otherwise.
Because a lot of them give you stun breaks.
Oh yeah.
See, I was looking at that originally, and then I was like, wait, you have one that like cools down your F5 or your evolve skill every time you CC something, and I was looking at that and I was like, but you also have a Grandmaster that resets your morph skills every time you evolve, so yeah. I don't know. There's just so much like trade interaction potential here.
Yeah.
I'm very excited because I figured, who cares? I want to definitely play around with it for sure, but I figure who cares, like, how strong your tool belt skills are if they just don't have cooldowns because your F5 doesn't have a cooldown. So that's like my current target is just like get F5 as close to 0 as I can. You know what I mean? With like Alacrity and Relic of Rivers and Perma Boons. But I live in World versus World land where nothing's balanced, so we'll see.
I consider this spec to be like Conduit, but cool. This is cooler Conduit.
I think this is cooler everything. I think this one has demonstrates to me the most understanding, even if the skills are completely overpowered and the numbers are like ridiculous, right? I think this demonstrates a really solid both level of enthusiasm. Like, we always rate things on concept versus execution, my friends and I, and we'll do like 9 out of 10 concept, but like 2 out of 10 execution, or vice versa, or something like Chronomancer usually gets a high score for both. But this gets, to me, at least on paper, a very high score in both of those things because it demonstrates an understanding, both thematically as well as like trait-wise, of Engineer, as well as just the execution of like, okay, what can we make this do without like maybe pushing it, like still having levers to pull where we don't have to just like nuke these traits from orbit and make them no one ever use them again, right? If like resetting your morph skills 100% is too much in PvP, maybe it reduces them by like 50 or something. Like the Ranger Mace has got nerfed too. Like there are numbers on these that they can mechanically tweak.
There are ways you can put your strength skills on your morph skills, and then you take the Grandmaster where your strength skills are shared, but they're reduced by like 50 and then 25 again. So they're super short. So they might not actually be worth it at that point. But that is a way you spam like strain. Like, there's a way you can do it. There's a path, there's an avenue to get to that point, which is super fucking cool.
I'm so excited. Yeah, Amalgam. I'm sure everyone will be playing this and love it, but it's good to see things like this and Antiquary that kind of came out of nowhere, and people are like, "Hey, let's give this a shot," All right, I'm gonna go away, and you can talk for literally forever about Evoker.
Evoker.
So, this is. I wanna just start off with this. Evoker seems like the most, from my outside non-LE player perspective or non-LE main, it seems like the most balanced of the three. For all of these previews, they seem to have one that's like a little undertuned, and by definition, you kind of have to have this one that's a little undertuned, one that's a little overtuned, and one that's like a little bit just right. And this seems like the just right one to me, where it doesn't get the perma stab, perma aura thing that Catalyst has, but you have a lot of playstyle potential built into this. And I'm not even getting into the single element thing, but I do want to say up front that, and then you can talk, I promise, literally forever about this, that from my perspective, I do very much agree that Elementalist for the longest time has been what's like I'll refer to as a noob trap, where a lot of people are like, oh, I want to play a caster in a game, or I want to play a healer, and then they get on their hands on Elementalist, and they're like, this is super complicated. As a new player, I can't manage all of this. And if nothing else, I think the option to at least get familiar with a single element at a time is going to open this class up, like Elementalist as a whole, to a lot of people. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this will add meaningful playstyles for Ellie? If so, what?
Meaningful playstyles in what game mode? Because it does change depending on what game mode this is. In PvP, in PvP modes, I guess this will count. World v World 2 probably. This will have definitely some applications, but I don't think it'll be necessarily that obvious where they go. Hair is, despite having the most kind of upwards damage potential, at least in a power sense.
So the air familiar.
Air familiar, yeah. It does look like it kind of sucks to like actually cast its skills, to hit the skills. It does look like an instant cast on the minor skill, but the enhanced skill is basically the smoke scale bouncy thing, which is also the Revenant Sword 3 bouncy thing, which also directly scales downward in damage depending on how many enemies are in the area it is hitting.
Yeah, so but it auto crits.
It does auto crit, but I mean, you get pretty close to that anyway, especially if you take Hair, because
dragons, dude.
Because of the fact that Hair grants you, thank God, the Fury crit steroid. Now Ellie actually has a real crit steroid class, when before we only got like little bits of it sprinkled in. You know, Catalyst just gets all the precision for no reason. But you can't really control how much you have at any one time. It's just going to go up or down depending on whatever your stupid passive percent stacks are. But this one is just, your Fury's good now. Your Fury works. Have fun being a Guardian.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The Fox, which I thought would be the most broken, might still have very high upward potential for a DPS in PvE, but otherwise is like kind of super lame. I don't think it'll be that useful in competitive modes.
I think there's going to be some crazy Toad builds.
Toad is gonna go, man. Toad is crazy. But I'm gonna finish on Fox, I think. Fox sucks. I was interested.
Okay, explain.
I was interested in, originally, before the stream even came out, I was already theory crafting based on what I thought would be the cooldown reduction, because they had already hinted that it would make a primary cooldown of an attunement lower. So I was like, all right, what if it's like 5 seconds, you know, goes down to 4 with what's it called, arcane trait line. Maybe that's what they're gonna do here, and that's already gonna be really fucking good. It's 0. You can just swap back into it whenever outside of the global cooldown.
Seems like it.
But they did note that they're going to alter the trait swap or attunement swap traits, possibly to have an internal cooldown on them, so you can't like triple sunspot, which is probably kind of lame. They haven't given any details as to how they're going to alter them. I don't believe I saw anything about it in the video, just that they are.
I think you said you're scared of Weaver. Yeah.
Yeah, this might affect Weaver in a negative fashion. I think normal Weaver swap cooldowns are going to be fine. Like the 4-second global swap. But if they use Weave Self and they get the 2-second swap, it might... If it's a global thing and it doesn't just affect Evoker, it might just completely screw it up.
I think they could probably make it just affect Evoker. They did stuff like that for Scourge, but I suppose we'll see. Probably not for the beta.
I also think that the Fox... what's it called? The Fox Epidemic, the Burn Epidemic, not actually that interesting, not that useful.
It's not a projectile, though.
Yeah, it is not a projectile, that's true. Because again, the thing with Elementalist and especially Conduit builds on Ellie and sometimes Guardian is that there's not very many cover conditions baked into the class itself or its weapons. Pistol maybe, the specified pistol Conduit weapon only has like 2 or 3 cover condies, right? It's a really potent, burning is really potent to spread and to have, but I think it gets cleansed really easily. So builds.
Oh, I see. So as soon as you apply the burning with the epidemic, it's just going to get cleansed, is what you're saying. I see.
It's probably just going to get cleansed. Though if you hit a very large group in a competitive modes, I mean, in PvE it might be interesting, but there's not many instances where you're hitting a bunch of enemies at once that matter. Like an instance, you know, what are they called? Like strike missions? There's just one guy. You're hitting one guy. Who are you spreading that burning to?
I mean, Doom CM, new strat. We literally, how we did Doom CM was Epidemic bouncing off the running linebacker dude.
See, that might work. Raids might work. That
was the time.
I was also noting the way that the familiars were casting in correlation to where the player was standing. It seemed at some points, because it wants to go next to you, but you can kind of control where it goes next to you. There's like a radius around you that it pops to when you use this skill, and it'll fire from that point. So theoretically, I was thinking about how the Fox fired the projectile forward. You could kind of go around a ledge just slightly and pull it to you, and then you could fire around the corner through the Fox.
I see.
But that's just silly, weird stuff that's probably not going to come into effect that often.
No, it's worth knowing. I mean, sure, people will try to play this stuff. I just think it's really interesting that the familiars have a range. Like, Hal seems so in tune with Ellie that he knows, like, hey, if we make this like 12 or I don't even want to mention Gale Shot, but Gale Shot has a trait on it that has like 2,000 range or something. It like fires arrows and just hits the world whenever you fire 8 missiles. And I went back and looked at the tooltip, and the tooltip says 2,000 range. It's like, dude, you took this off of Spear of Archimedes. Why do you think this is a good idea? But like all the Ellie stuff seems 900 range, and it's like, okay, that gives us some power budget to actually make these things interesting and tune them up a little bit. Because he said a lot of it is probably a little bit undertuned on Evoker. What I think is... Sorry, go ahead.
Spiritually, Ellie wants to be at Scepter range. Scepter is a beautiful range for Ellie.
I kind of agree. And to that end, Perma Meteor Shower Evoker seems like it is going to be a thing in World vs. World. Let me say that much.
Your Fox won't be doing that much to help you unless it has very good power scaling still. It just has alright power scaling now, but a lot of Meteor Showers might be coming out. It might be funny. Though hair still might be better. I don't know.
Could be pretty fun.
Can't reset with hair, yeah.
Yeah, well, it depends if the hair can hit things on top of walls.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. There might be some weird support Otter builds as well. Like, they seem very cool. The potential seems there.
I think Otter was one I was really looking at because Otter is my favorite spirit of the wild. And I'm a support Ellie main. I was just gonna want to look at Otter anyway.
It seems like if you're gonna play support, you're just gonna play Toad.
I don't think this
at least to me
deck will have support. I don't think it has enough tools.
I don't know, man. Aura Share, Toad, Perma Mag Aura. I mean, you said it has a 25-second cooldown, but we'll see. I think there's ways to get that lower.
I think Otter might see some use in bunker builds that wish they were running Toad anyway, but it does have some potential in it, mainly just baked into the trait itself. Otter itself, I don't think does too much. I do look at the fact that your regular skill, the splash that shoots out the projectiles, is unblockable. I do not know why it is unblockable. It does not hit
it's a healing skill. So it has to hit your allies. It's kind of like the elixirs on NG. They were made unblockable so they could heal people. Or the I think they were elixirs, yeah. A lot of the support ones were made unblockable, so they don't just get eaten by Zerg World vs. World Reflex.
Yeah. A lot of the problems I'm gonna find, because the problems I will find with Otter is that it seems like it wants to have a lot of green numbers. It wants to be a green number spec. Your regen's improved. You give a lot of it forever. Regen itself is giving a heal proc, which, let me look down here. The trait, we're scaling off of a celestial stat spread, isn't that right? I think
you're the Ellie main.
I mean, the Ellie had like 18,000 health. I think that's Ellie.
Yes, I think it is too. Oh, you mean what did he have equipped? Yes, I think that's Ellie.
Yeah. So Ellie stats on the regen heal is about half of what the Aura Elemental Bastion heal does as base in competitive modes, or specifically PvP. I think it has a 400, 450, 490 base healing, somewhere around there. They did nerf it because Tempest was cool. But obviously auras will be applied a little less frequently and a little more in bursts than, say, regen, which you can get a lot more often. So theoretically here, the regen can heal more. The regen builds of Evoker can heal more than than Aura Share Tempest. But the problem you'll find here, like obviously there's synergies with like, ooh, cleanse on every regen, cleanse forever, right? But you're not doing anything else.
You know what I almost feel like? Yeah, I see what you're saying. You know what I almost feel like Otter needs? It needs a trait, because there's already a trait, I believe, on Ellie that says you cleanse a condition when you apply regen, right? It's like a water Grandmaster. So I feel like somewhere in Evoker's kit, there needs to be a trait that says, maybe not even on a Grandmaster, that says like when you apply regen, you grant like, what's the boon? Not resistance, resilience? Something like that. You know what I mean? Like something that makes... Not like protection. So, you know, if they're applying, you know, you're cleansing Condis, you just become immune to both damage types, right? But just like resilience makes you a little bit more You don't have to fully invest in like just doing regen things or
Yeah.
even taking water in a maybe counterintuitive sense. I don't know. Maybe gain light, gain something.
Yeah. The thing with Tempest is that it already does tons of regen and vigor.
Right. So maybe Evoker could do resilience or something like that. Something valuable to your team.
I think resistance. If Evoker was a resistance applier, because Ellie does not have a good way to apply resistance at all.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't know if that would be fair, because resistance in PvP
maybe.
is very good, but...
Yeah. Well, I think the middle adept trait sucks, so maybe they could do something with that.
What does it do right now?
Oh, when you use your healing skill, apply burn and give regen, like once.
On Evoker? Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Maybe when you use a skill that heals, it does that.
The thing with Evoker, and I can kind of tell, because before we got the stream, I was theory crafting what boons essentially Evoker would have needed to have in order to make it viable apart from what is currently the competitive meta.
Other than stability.
Other than stability, because that's the reason Otter's going to fail, is it doesn't have any of the tools that Tempest has. But
right. Or Kata.
One of the things that Ellie needs a lot of the time is a lot of defense, right? It's very squishy, it's very sustain heavy. If the sustain doesn't outpace the damage, the incoming damage, it just turns into paste and dies.
Right. It's similar
one
to
of the things,
Rev in that sense, where
one of the
you can build it very... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can keep going with Rev.
I was just gonna say, instead of like, you can build it very squishy where you just like build up your burst, but you can also, if you're playing like traditional Ellie, you get 4 attunements. So again, by definition, none of them can be really overpowered. But if you lean into one, it sort of, you know, or lean into all of them, it sort of, you cycle through all your elements, and then you have the defense, you have the regen, you have the damage spike, attunements, etc. I'm just trying to describe it for people who maybe don't play Ellie. Continue, sorry. If the pressure outpaces your sustain.
But in competitive modes currently, 2 fairly consistently required trait lines, like some of the best for Ellie ever, are Earth and Fire. And Fire is a very good damage multiplier. It gives you a lot of might. It gives you a lot of more like passive damage, like do more damage while they're burning. Have Sunspot, works on Conduit or what's it called? Conduit or power builds. But mainly, you take Smothering Auras, in particular, as a cleanse. And it's your best cleanse. It's one of the best cleanses Ellies can even get. Getting an aura cleanses you 1. Transmuting it on specific core weapons will pop twice. You'll get 2 cleanses out of it. So technically, every aura could be 3 cleanses at once.
I'm hearing support Toad.
Yeah. But just getting them at all is a strong cleanse. And the other one, Earth, is generally required for, honestly, survival. Earth in particular gives you protection on aura, which again, very important internal mechanic of Elementalist. Not exclusive to Elementalist, but they rely on it the most. They have the most traits that interact with auras. And damn, they can get a lot of them. So that prot is sticking around for a long time. In addition, Earth has several very potent defensive traits. Diamond Skin, which cleanses on finishers. Very important if you need more cleanse. Stoneheart, one of the best traits in the game still. Be immune to crits when you swap into Earth for 4 seconds, and then when you swap out, it's still 1 second extra. So a little parry, essentially. These 2 trait lines are fairly vital. And apart from them, maybe you can do Arcane to have better momentum, and also for power scaling and a free Arcane Shield, which is incredible. But other than that, you don't really see, unless you're on dedicated support builds, water, and you're never going to see air unless it's a Lightning Rod or a Fresh Air build. So there are specific niche damage builds or support builds that still require the defensive trait lines to facilitate their use. If you're an Arcane Air Spear Catalyst, your job is to be very, very far away from people trying to hit you or kill them instantly. You don't have the defense to survive in like a brawl. You have to be able to counter pressure them hard enough to win. One thing I noticed that Evoker has a lack of is any interaction with auras at all. There's nothing that says you gain an aura. There's nothing that gives you any aura-related boons or bonuses. It's all baked into your pets, or the familiars, which also have nothing to do with auras. And
Maybe they're trying to get away from Catalyst, like, because Catalyst was so reliant on auras, and they're unstrippable, so they kind of maybe saw a problem there.
But the thing here is that you can see there's a lot of protection access in Evoker, actually. Even when you are not involved in Toad specifically as your chosen familiar. You have the bottom adept, so you gain prot whenever you disable an enemy. You know, you could take Familiar's Blessing and get even more Toad prot. There's quite a bit of access to prot that would maybe allow you to forego Earth. And you can see there's a lot of potential with going into water instead to get the cleanse back, right? Because you have regen on dodge. Of course, Relic of Rivers is still regen on dodge. That's 2 impacts of regen, essentially. And those will give you a heal. They'll cleanse you, whatever you need from it.
So what trait line, I mean, Evoker's very customizable, but what trait line would you say they're maybe trying to lean into? Probably water more for this?
Definitely
at least
water.
On paper? Okay.
In addition to water, I can see that there is... In PvE, it will not be the same than in PvP, but
right.
Otter in particular, the prowess buff where you get a bonus for using your skill, your familiar skill, looks like another source of benevolence, which is just me in archaic terms talking about percent healing to others. And it's 30% in PvE if you take the familiar's focus trait. It's probably only 20 usually, but that is still a very large amount to carry out, especially with water having an inherent 20 on its own, and you can take a transference sigil. Theoretically, your regen procs, even in competitive modes, could be hitting huge numbers, really huge numbers, which doesn't necessarily mean you win the engagement, but it can be potentially something to look at, especially if you have better sources of stability, better boons on the team. The issue you'd find also is that you don't apply protection to your allies because you're not in Tempest and Earth.
Yeah, we'll see if it outclasses Tempest, I guess, ultimately, right? Or if it can outclass Tempest in a maybe Tempest can be the jack of all trades and they can tone it down a little bit or maybe make space for this. You want a hot take? I think Smothering Auras was the beginning of the end for balance for this game. I really don't like that trait. And by the way, I played a buttload of Conduit Weaver when they put that in the game. Smothering Auras is a trait that gives you a Conduit Cleanse when you apply an aura to yourself. And then, like you said, you can transmute them for even more. But I think that trait has no business being in fire. It's like how they added a bunch of random Conduit Cleanse to Ranger just because. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I don't think Conduit Cleanse should be specifically restricted to certain trait lines, but there are classes like Warrior, like Elementalist, that have very strong, historically Grandmaster traits that are built around having easy access to Conduit Cleanse. And I think that if you just start adding... I mean, Conduit's obviously gotten out of control since a lot of these things were made, but so they had to do it. But I do recognize that, I guess, when you add things like Smothering Auras to fire, that does diminish the importance of water, let's say.
Yeah.
Especially if the water trait is a Grandmaster that you need to sacrifice other good traits for.
Fire is extremely potent trait line, especially because of that. It would be decent even without it. Back in the day, back in core days, when you only got, 10 points to distribute, because the game was crazy. I believe water was one of the ones you always took all the way to 30 for cleansing, and then cantrip reduction plus regen on that as well. This stopped becoming relevant because fire is so good, essentially, I think.
Right.
And also because they've done some changes on water before to make it more attractive. For example, adding a vitality steroid onto what is otherwise a kind of lame trait. The Soothing Mist Grandmaster. They added raw-ass power scaling onto an adept and a master trait. Just to convince people to take it more, you know. But it still just doesn't quite do what it wants to outside of support builds. It isn't...
What would you say it wants to?
It's supposed to be part of the bunkery, sustainy type gameplay, I think, if you're not a support build.
Fire?
Especially with the cleanse. No,
I guess.
Water.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was confused.
But it hasn't really had a place for the most part because of the way power scaling has happened, because of what other trait lines have gotten, because of the importance of, you know, if you just go fire and earth on like a dagger, bruiser, catalyst, bruiser, tempest, you have everything you need. You don't even need to think about water. You can heal plenty enough as it is for the most part. So there's not much you get from like healing ripple, which used to be one of your best like heals in old core builds. Is you just swap in and out of water. You do the evasive Arcana dodge. You regen the full. You just swap back into fire and start kicking their ass again. There is potential for Evoker to actually utilize water enough to warrant taking it as sort of an offensive defensive trait line, but that remains yet to be seen, and Toad is the best.
And Toad is the best. Do you want to talk about Toad for a little bit?
I have not talked about Toad yet. It's time to talk about Toad. It has a daze on it. It gives you barrier.
It has Ring of Warding.
It's got Ring of Warding baked into it. It gives you prot. It gives bleed, so it's annoying. And cripple, which I guess doesn't matter that much. But it has Ring of Warding. That skill also has a knockdown on it before the Ring of Warding. The daze gives you barrier when you interrupt stuff. It's 1.5 seconds in PvE. It's going to be 1/4 in PvP, if it's even still there.
Toad seems juiced.
Toad is a lightning rod bait. Dagger Toad is going to be one of the best like bruisers in the game. It's going to be so annoying. Perma-prot, you don't even need earth anymore. You can take some other crap.
Your prot also decreases the efficacy of condies on you.
You can take that. Or you could take Familiar's Blessing, which gives you inherently more cleanse. You get 2 cleanses whenever you use the Familiar skill. Plus you get whatever the hell else you get. I haven't talked about specialized elements yet, because that is a freaky thing that could deserve an entire essay. But Toad, Lightning Rod, Dagger Toad's gonna go so hard. It's gonna be so annoying.
Oh boy. You know what I thought of though? While you were talking, actually, I think that all 9 of these specializations, even Paragon included, what I hope for is not only that they give them some space to use underutilized trait lines, but that all 9 of these specializations give ArenaNet some design space, I guess, and freedom to kind of do what Sulfir said on our old podcast of, because I predicted the elite specs with no weapons thing, but he said it would be really cool, I think, if they either introduced or reworked core trait lines or a new core trait line, and I think that's almost what I think they're almost trying to do both of those things with this expansion, in a way where they have these trait lines that are a little bit underused currently, and they're like, hey, what if this elite spec wasn't designed around exactly, but at least played off of some of these other trait lines as like a secondary goal, you know what I mean? Like, there's like elite specializations, those have to be good, and then like under that is like, hey, let's make water not suck, or make tactics relevant, or something like that. So we'll see if they can do that in a way that doesn't like force you to use the trait line, you know what I mean? Like, I really don't like when they were like, hey, you can combo this command with leg specialist on Paragon, and it's like, no one's gonna do that, because throw bolas is a better immobilizer. There's like infinitely better ways to do this. But they're trying, you know? They're trying with, I'd say, their understanding of their specs that they have worked on.
They never played Warrior. They don't know nothing.
I don't want
They
to
don't
get
know.
into that. We'll see. We'll see if they figure out that Alacrity belongs on Spellbreaker, or if they actually say the word Bladesworn at
Oh,
some point. Yeah, I know, right?
another thing that's annoying.
Go.
In PvE, we can see that the middle trait line, Familiar's Blessing, is supposed to be your boon trait, essentially. Where where you give out quickness on Hare specifically, and Otter gives out Alacrity, and all the other ones don't matter at all. But that actually, I think, is the wrong way around. I think Hare should give Alacrity.
That's what Selfir said.
It's faster and cooler, right? You going faster, wow. And Otter should give quickness, because right now what it's doing is it's stepping on the toes of Tempest, which is always going to be a better support, and Catalyst is going to be a better quick DPS than this, probably, unless like the numbers are really good, like finally surpass it. But in that case, it's just power creep to hell. But what's happening specifically here is that we cannot escape quickness support Catalyst, which is dreadful and awful, and no one would ever want to do that. I've done it before, but I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to say, no, stop quickness supporting on Catalyst. Never do that again. Here, take Otter. Do it.
Well,
now go, sir, yes, sir.
I think Sulfir brought that up because there aren't actually a lot of healing quickness builds in the game.
Yeah.
Conversely, there aren't a lot of like relevant like damage Alacrity builds in the game. It's generally the other way around, so we'll see. Maybe, give him feedback on the 20th. Jesus, 2 days from now. This can't go too long. Do you have any final thoughts, or do you want to keep going on Ellie?
Specialized Elements is a meme, and I think it's funny. I don't think it'll be good outside of maybe 1 or 2 builds, and outside of those builds, it'll be food. You just eat it. You just kill that thing.
I think that it's going to be fun. I think that the numbers could be tweaked so that it would be broken. I think that they know that it's undertuned now because he said it in the video, so we'll see. What I do think about Specialized Elements is, like I said, I think it'll open up a lot of room for people to feel like Ellie is less of a noob trap, to maybe learn their skills, one element at a time. I think that it will be hilarious for the gods that can build, like, have 9 build templates set up for this, so they can CC you with Toad, lightning flash away, get out of combat, hotkey swap to their other build, and then get back in combat and come back and kill you. But like world versus world, there's going to be some nonsense with specialized builds, like outside of the actual parameters of how you should play the game. But I don't think obviously they're building for that, nor do they care. What I do think with specialized elements, what will happen is they know there's going to be some very undertuned and also some very broken stuff. And they're just going to put it in the game and say, okay, let's see what kills each game mode and then nerf it if it's a problem. I don't think they have any capacity to look through the myriad of bajillions of weapon combinations that exist on Ellie right now to even try to balance that before this comes out.
There are already Fire Wizard builds that do exist and are not only viable but optimal, such as for like Alacrity, Tempest, especially with the introduction of Inferno, you're allowed to Fire Wizard a great deal more, and it is optimal. It's great. But of course, at that point you always have access to swapping for CC phases if you need the CC damage, which is something Ellie has historically really sucked at giving out. Fire Wizard has a chance to do that, and with specialized elements, you could say goodbye to every amount of CC you've ever had in your life. I didn't talk about the utilities. I don't know, maybe that's too much.
No, go ahead. I'm here for it.
The utility. My first thought is that they should keep the Otter Heal icon for the healing skill. They should not change that at all. Perfect the way it is.
It's adorable.
An additional reason that Otter support will suck is because the meditation, which is clearly designed to give you a burst heal, is giving you completely conditional burst heal that's based on conditions you cannot control. So it's just gonna suck ass.
Warrior healing skill, you say?
Hell yeah. I don't know how to feel about the hair evade. I don't think it's that interesting. I also think the chain lightning thing might not be that interesting either, unless it's like a very high scaling damage skill. The Toad parry, I don't know. Toad parry. It's more prot, I guess.
I like how you're like, I want to talk about the utility skills, and you're just like,
I could go hard though. But one thing I think is interesting specifically is the elite, which normally I thought the elite was going to be lame, and it is kind of lame, but it does have more applications than I thought it did when I first saw it. The first thing I did when I saw it be used in the video is get annoyed that the Toad's blast finisher goes off before the water puts down the bubble and gives you the water blast. So I was like, oh, you're such a bastard. But then I noticed that this little elemental procession here is 2, maybe 3 procs of CC. You get the Toad knockdown, you get the water bubble, and then you get possibly
but on steroids.
Yeah, you get possibly the ring as well hitting. And then you get a bunch of other little bits and bobs of damages coming out. This will go so hard on Lightning Rod. This thing's insane. It sucks.
I'm scared. I'm scared of this. I'm scared of Conduit. I'm scared of Amalgam. I'm turbo scared of Gale Shot, but I have a whole video coming on that.
Oh yeah.
But that's Evoker. Again, this is the preview for the last 3 Elite specs. Visions of Eternity, of course, coming out in October. If you'd like to try any of these, there will be a beta on the 20th. We will be streaming some of that. I am very excited. Subscribe here for more balanced nonsense. Free plug for War Pigs, which Mamiga is a part of. I'm also a part of it. Great PvP guild. Free plug for Vanguards of Ascension. Great World vs. World roaming guild. And yeah, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes at 9. I'm Pseudo. This is Meeg. Do you have any final thoughts?
Otter good.
Otter good. Otter good, Toad better.
No! Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. Give me your feedback. I'm excited. Very, very, very much cool things coming down the pipeline in terms of build potential. But yeah, I will see you guys in Tyria. Peace out.
Bye.
Have a good one.